Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Larry McIntosh, and I'll be your host for the next hour and every Saturday morning from 8 to 9. Thanks for tuning in. For the last several weeks, we've introduced a feature at the beginning of each show. Each Saturday, we look at a few interesting and good news events in history. So let's take a look at this day in history. On February 28th, 1932, the Model A Ford, which was one of the Ford Motor Company's first signature automobiles, was first produced on this day back in 1932. On February 28, 1983, the final episode of MASH was aired. It became the most watched television episode in U.S. history. Back in 83, I can't believe it was that long ago. On February 28, 2007, John McCain announced his candidacy for president on the David Letterman Show. On February 28, 2010, the Winter Olympics closing ceremony was held at BC Place. This was the first time that an opening and closing Olympic ceremony was held in an indoor venue. And as you may, and I know I'm a day late on this, but yesterday was International Polar Bear Day. And Shelley and I are actually going after the show to see the polar bears at the Journey to Churchill, the Assiniboine Park Zoo, so maybe we'll see you there. And also, since we're talking about being a day late, yesterday was my birthday. And Shelley tells me that I'm a perfect 10 since I turned 55. I think she meant the age, not the, but you know what I'm saying. Thanks to all of you who emailed me and posted birthday wishes on my Facebook site, so I appreciate that. My guest this morning is Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning and happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm sure you sent me an email.
I did. It's I'm sure you didn't.
My
get
spam
a cake or something that I sent.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Good. So the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. How long have you been there now?
I've been there almost a year and a half now. So it's
so you're a veteran.
I'm no longer a new guy. I used to do it in sort of how you do it in baby months. Like I'm 9 months, and I would use that for the longest time. So now it's like a year and a half.
So the honeymoon's over,
it's
really.
Like 18 months, so yeah, I've got no excuses.
No excuses. So for those that don't know about the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, tell us about the organization.
Well, we are a lobby organization. We're the umbrella organization for chambers in the province. In Manitoba, there are 66 local chambers of commerce in many communities throughout the province, every part of the province. Our role is really as the voice of business in Manitoba, and that's done through the policy development that we do and the advocacy that we do on behalf of the business community. So we are considered the voice of business in Manitoba.
So I would challenge you a little bit on that, because you're the voice of business, but really you're about making Manitoba a better place to live, work, raise a family.
Yeah, and that's one of the sort of the misnomers as well. Is it's always there's always this sort of sense that we only do things that are in the best interest of business, because there's two sort of parts to it. Business is part of it, but it's also about communities.
Yeah,
and it's about creating strong communities within Manitoba, because I think you can't have one without the other. You can't have a strong community and have a weak business community, and I don't think you can have a weak business community and a strong community. So they sort of meld together, and those chambers throughout the province, that are strong communities typically have a strong business base as well, and a strong chamber of commerce, because things that are good for the business community, in my mind, and the things that we lobby and we advocate on behalf of, are usually just as good for communities in Manitoba as well.
Yeah, I use the word challenge, which is probably a little bit strong, but I think it's more than business, as you just explained. A lot of the local chambers, and I've had the pleasure of visiting many throughout the province. Some of them are more involved in lobbying along with you, and some of them are involved in tourism.
Sure, a lot do tourism, a lot do events. You'll see them running, whether it's local July 1st parades. They do things in their retail community to support the retail community, and they're really big boosters in their community, which is an important thing as well. So it's not always about, we're calling for reduced taxes. It's about how are we creating stronger communities, and what can a business community do, and what can the chamber do in a lot of those local communities. So that is a big part of it as well. They are huge parts of their communities, making sure that that they're looking after things that are important to the communities, like I mentioned before.
And as you know, I've been very involved in the chamber movement since I moved to Manitoba. I was involved with the Winnipeg Chamber, the Manitoba Chambers, Assiniboine Chamber, the Canadian Chamber at one time. Yeah. They're great organizations, and especially Manitoba, because of Manitoba Chambers, because you represent so many chambers throughout the province. But it's really about building a better community, which we call Manitoba, or your individual community, and making it a better place to work and live, as I said.
Well, absolutely, and it's really that opportunity, and what chambers do, and I tell some stories about some of the benefits of being in chambers, and I tell this story a lot of times, that when I first started in the job, I'd been asked to come out to St. Agathe and St. Adolphe and Ile-des-Chênes, and they were looking to start a chamber. And they were talking about, so what are the benefits of being a chamber? And I talk about, sort of the advocacy we do and the networking opportunities. But really what it was about, and I was sitting down having breakfast with some of the local business people in St. Agathe, and two gentlemen were having a discussion. And they were talking about, I just got these brand new windows in my house, and it was a real pain because the only person I could find to do it was someone from Stonewall, and it was it had to sort of fit his schedule. And the gentleman across the table said, "Well, I live just down the street from you, do business in St. Agathe, and it's exactly what I do." And so right then there was that connection and it's really creating those networks within your own business community to be able to do business and to have a better understanding of some of the opportunities that exist within your own community. And so when I talked to them, I said, you know what, if you didn't have a Chamber of Commerce and you weren't bringing your business community together, you would have never known that. And so that was a real value proposition that they see in some local small communities. It's an opportunity to do business together, to find relationships, and to create sort of those long-lasting business relationships that are important to really growing your local business as well.
And I can tell you that, as I said, we're big supporters of the chamber movement, but the first thing we do at Peak of the Market, if we're looking for new cleaners or a supplier for something, we get out the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce book and say, who's members? Those are the people that we call first because they're giving back to their local communities or through you because they believe in our province and their community. So why shouldn't we give them an opportunity to quote on the business? They may or may not get it, but why not call them first?
And that's one thing I always encourage as well. And, I think a lot of times when you put the word Chamber of Commerce and when businesses are attached to a Chamber of Commerce, there's typically this level that there's a credibility, that this is a credible business that has invested in their local Chamber of Commerce, that they're invested in their community. And so there comes a credibility with having that Chamber of Commerce behind them as an organization or as a company that's involved with that. So I think people see that as an opportunity. That's someone that I want to do business with because they are associated with a Chamber of Commerce. So that's something that we hold very dearly, and it's something that we encourage a lot of our local businesses to seek out someone that's a Chamber of Commerce member when you're looking to do business in Manitoba.
We'll be right back with Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, after we take this break for your weather update. Welcome back. I'm Larry McIntosh. Food and Friends Radio is on TV. Each radio show is filmed and will be posted on Mytoba.ca later today. So if you want to see the TV version of this or previous radio shows, please visit Mytoba.ca. Thanks to 680 CJOB's Nicole, who produces our show, and Riley, who operates the camera, as well as the teachers of the Broadcasting and Media Arts program at Techvoc High School. You can also listen to an audio podcast of Food and Friends at SoundCloud.com and at the iTunes Store. So please just do a search for Food and Friends with Larry at Mytoba.ca or SoundCloud.com or at the iTunes Store, and all the shows will come up for your listening or viewing pleasure. It's very important for me to mention that Food and Friends is only available because of 680 CJOB and its advertisers, so please make sure you tune in right here every Saturday morning at 8 or listen live at cjob.com. We're back with Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. So, Chuck, have you always been involved? I know the answer to this, but you've always been involved in the chamber movement, or were you in media at some point in time?
Well, I was at the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce before I started the Manitoba Chamber, and I spent close to 10 years there with Dave Angus as the Vice President of Policy and Communications. Prior to that, I had spent a couple of years in doing media relations for one of the political parties in Manitoba, but I got my start right here at 680 CJOB. Not in this building, in the old building, where I cut my teeth from starting back in 1993, and spent 6 years learning how to read news, and spent some time as a reporter at the legislature, and I still have fond memories and still know lots of people that still work in this building as well, so that was a great start for me. And
you have a great voice for radio, for sure, and you're very comfortable with it, but do you miss that time?
Sometimes I do. I mean, I always say the best, having been sort of in media relations and doing what I've been doing for the past 20 years, the most memorable time I ever had doing any job ever was the 1999 Pan Am Games, when I was here at CJOB, and we had the broadcasting rights to the games, so we had free reign to kind of go and do everything, and we broadcasted the Pan Am Games that year basically 24/7, and so I got to I remember getting to call, do play-by-play for soccer games. I got to call the 4x100. The Donovan Bailey was here. He was racing in, so I was on site, and they came to me, so I got to do that. So there was such memorable moments. I still remember as well the closing ceremonies when the Guess Who was coming on.
Right.
I was able to. We were sort of walking around in the back, and I did a one-on-one with Burton Cummings before he went on stage. And when the funny story was, I couldn't remember his name at first. I was so excited that he was going to be coming on the air with me that I'd called up, and Kelly Moore at the time was hosting it, and I called up quickly. I said, I got him. And I was standing right beside him. I got the big guy. And for the life of me, I could not remember his name. I was just so excited to get that opportunity, and then had the opportunity to interview him for 3 to 4 minutes live before they went on the air that time, which was so there were so many highlights from me from that opportunity. That's still one of those times that it never seemed like work to me. So there are times like that I absolutely miss doing the radio.
This has nothing to do with what you were saying, but I don't get to say Burton Cummings stories very often. So I met him once. I said, "Hi, Larry McIntosh." And that's all I said. Yeah. And then he sang the Peak of the Market jingle.
Nice.
It blew me away.
Really?
I wish I'd taped it. I was surprised he knew it. Never mind sang it to me. So that was kind of cool. So you had a media pass, so you could go pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a 1 hour show here. They don't give me a media pass, but you could pretty much go anywhere, the media pass, right?
Well, that time I could, yeah, absolutely. It was such a great time having that media pass, getting to see all that stuff firsthand. It was just
You get to bomber sidelines and those kind of things.
Yeah, I used to have the opportunity to. I would work the pregame shows when Bob Irving they would host them in the Blue and Gold Room, and Chris Walby and Miles Gorell. So I was more the operator back in those days. So I got to see all the pros in action, and I have great memories of watching the sports, of being able to work with people like Peter Warren, Roger Curry back when they were working here. So it was a great time and a great learning experience, learning from people like Vic Grant and Ted Farr, who really showed me the ropes and gave me my first opportunity to work in the media and all the opportunities that came with that. And I think that was really the start of I'd moved into news and was doing news reporting for the last number of years that I was here, covering the legislature, covering elections, all that sort of stuff, which was great experience. And that was long before social media. So,
right.
You couldn't Facebook and Twitter what you were up to. You had to get on the air. So there was always that pressure that, who's going to get on the air first. And, at CJOB, we had a bit of a reputation of having that ability to before TV could ever get on or before newspapers. And there was really no websites at that point as well when I was doing it. So it was always about, how quickly can CJOB get on the air. So there was a real immediacy to what we were doing. And at the time, Caroline Seifert and I were really the first reporters that were doing what we were doing.
So what was your least favorite part of being in the media?
It's 24/7.
Right.
You couldn't turn it off. Being a reporter, you'd get phone calls at 3:00 in the morning. There's a fire somewhere. You need to go cover it. So that was the tough thing. But at the time, it was you loved it. Just being so having an understanding of the news and being first to understand, to learn things, and to try to have to formulate a story and in a quick time to be able to get it to air. That was stuff that was you still remember those times doing it. And
that's got to be a challenge because you have to get the story and report quickly and think it through. And I mean, I make some notes here and I stumble over them. It's got to be a challenge.
Well, it absolutely was. It's getting the facts and then being able to go on the air and be able to speak and to be able to kind of tell the story in a fashion that your listeners are going to understand.
We've been talking to Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Food and Friends. I'm Larry McIntosh, and it's time for our recipe segment called Now We're Cooking. You don't need to write this recipe down, as it is today's recipe of the day at peakmarket.com and in the Winnipeg Free Press, so you can get all the information from our website or today's Winnipeg Free Press. Today's recipe is light scalloped potatoes. Light scalloped potatoes. Now, since this recipe is quite long, I'll just go over the ingredients you'll need. Yukon Gold or yellow potatoes, thinly sliced. Onions, chopped. Chicken stock, milk, all-purpose flour, a pinch of nutmeg, salt and pepper to taste, cheddar cheese shredded, and paprika. This recipe is similar to regular scalloped potatoes, however, this is a lighter version of it. You can use any type of potato, red, russet, or yellow flesh if you like. However, for best results, it's highly recommended that you use peak of the market potatoes and onions. Actually, did you know that Manitoba grows more red and yellow potatoes than any other province in Canada? Manitoba is known right across North America for our high-quality potatoes, so that's going to get your best results in the recipe. If you're interested in viewing the full recipe, it is today's recipe today at peakmarket.com and in the Winnipeg Free Press. We'll be right back with Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce, after we take this break for your news, sports, and weather. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Larry McIntosh. I hope you had an opportunity to see our bright and colorful potato and onion bags at your store. Peak of the Market's new Sesame Street potato and onion bags feature Elmo, Bert, Grover, Oscar, Abby-Kadabi, Rosetta, Cookie Monster, Big Bird, and Ernie. 9 different Sesame Street characters in all. Along with the characters, you'll still see the Peak of the Market logo, so you're guaranteed it is grown right here in Manitoba. We're very pleased to partner with Sesame Street on the Eat Brighter program. The Sesame Street Eat Brighter program is all about encouraging children and adults to eat more fruits and vegetables. If you haven't seen your favorite Sesame Street character on a potato or onion bag in your local store, please ask the produce manager, where are they hiding? We're back with Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. So, favorite Sesame Street character?
Favorite Sesame Street character?
Shouldn't be the hardest question of the day.
That is a tough question. I'd say probably Grover.
Grover? Yeah. I like
I
Grover
always
too.
liked him too.
But Big Bird is kind of
Big Bird is good. Snuffleupagus I always liked too as a kid, just because nobody else could see it. It didn't seem like parents could ever see him.
He's invisible, so he's not on our bags.
So, yeah, that's true.
So you've been out your 18 months with the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. You've been out visiting chambers all over the province. How many have you been to so far?
I couldn't count how many I've been to, but I've spent a lot of time on the road. That's the one part of the job I really enjoy, is really getting out and talking to the local chambers, but more importantly, talking to the business owners. I love touring businesses to learn more about what's sort of happening in Manitoba and some of the great businesses and some of those stories about things that I think, I never realized that happened here. Like learning that a company in Brandon builds steel that shipped all over the world and is used for making arenas in Russia, or that a company that I visited in the Paw that produces pulp and paper makes cement bags that go everywhere in the world. And just 2 weeks ago, again, one of these companies that I had no idea. It's Norwex Cloths, and Norwex is a international brand of cleaning products. And my wife swears by these products. Like, the cloths are incredible for cleaning, and it's very environmentally friendly. Didn't realize that their headquarters are in Dauphin, Manitoba. So I had a chance to go and tour the Dauphin headquarters of Norwex, who are looking at international distribution everywhere in the world, and looking at all these, So these are the kind of stories that when I get the chance to kind of go and visit and see what actually happens in Manitoba and some of the companies that are based here, that's really the highlight for me, is to be able to talk to them and find out, what could I do, or what could the chamber do to, help your business? Are there challenges you're having in your business, whether it's from a workforce perspective or whether it's taxation or regulations? Are there things that I can come back, and when I'm meeting with various government officials or even post-secondaries, and I can give them that information and say, you know what, here's a company that you might be able to help, or we could set up a program with, or I could just share information with that can help those businesses and some of the challenges that they're having.
Do you find, and I know the answer is, but do you find there's a lot of interesting stories in Manitoba?
Oh, tons of interesting stories. And, the thing about Manitoba is that, we always have this sense that we don't want to share those great stories and those things that we're doing. We don't like to brag about all the great things that are happening in this province. And that's one of the things that I like to do as well, is to be able to try to tell those stories when I'm visiting with these businesses, and to have a good understanding as to, what they're doing, and when I have the opportunity to speak at different events, is to be able to tell those stories about, here's some great businesses here, and there's some great opportunities, and some communities are thriving and growing, and they're doing a lot of great things. Is to be able to tell those stories, and that's, most businesses don't spend the time to really self-promote as much as they really should.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a role that I think a Chamber of Commerce can help to play, is to tell some of those success stories, that it's not just always about, and I think a lot of people look at us as most business organizations, as all we do is sort of complain to government about certain things, or you're not business friendly enough. I always say, that's part of what we do. It's more raising awareness, but I also like to talk about some of the great things that businesses are doing in Manitoba, and how can we help them to grow, and how can we help them to prosper.
And when we started Food and Friends, I think it's just over 3 years ago when we started the show, and we came up with the name Food and Friends because we're obviously going to talk about food, but Friends is kind of open to anything, whether it's a charity or a chamber or a business. There's tons of great stories to tell about things that are happening in our province. And some people are uncomfortable talking about it; they don't want to come on the radio, and that's fair enough. But we have so many great stories that we need to get out there, that success stories, like some of the ones you just talked about.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're really using, are the communication vehicles that we have at our disposal as well. Whether it's the magazine that we do, the MBiz magazine, which comes out twice a year and is distributed throughout Manitoba through the Winnipeg Free Press, is that we use that magazine to be able to tell some of those stories from different parts of the province about some of the great things that are kind of going on. You talked about the polar bears. I mean, I had the opportunity to go up to Churchill in October and see that firsthand in that community, and to see what kind of a product we have in Manitoba with the polar bears, and what a story that is, that not very many people that know about, and fewer Manitobans have had the opportunity to actually go up there themselves and to kind of see firsthand. But there's great stories like that, and every community has something that they're trying to be known for, that they're promoting, and it's our job to be able to kind of help them tell those stories.
And communities, businesses, lots of great stories to tell out there. So the magazine's a great way of getting it out there, and I'm sure you have a newsletter and that. But it's so important for us to realize what we have right here in our own backyard.
Absolutely. And too often I think we take it for granted, that I think there are great things in this province. And that's why one of the big things that we've really started taking on at the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce is really promoting tourism. Because the importance that it has on the Manitoba economy, and I don't think a lot of people know this, is that close to, on an annual basis, $1.4 billion in the Manitoba economy is a result of tourism. So when you look at that as a percentage of GDP, it's about 3.4%. There are tens of thousands of jobs in this province that are a result of tourism. And, obviously in the past year, things like the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, the Assiniboine Park Zoo that you're going to later today to go see the polar bears, those are great vehicles that we now have in this province. And we're encouraging people to continue to travel the province and kind of go and see all these great things. And it doesn't matter what community I go to, there's something unique about them, whether it's the location or whether it's an event that they have, that people need to kind of go out and see. So those are some of the things that we're really taking a lead role in trying to promote in this province as well.
We're talking with Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. I'm Larry McIntosh. Peak of the Market is on Twitter. Follow us at Peak of the Market for recipes and Food and Friends guest updates. We have over 160,000 Twitter followers, and we'd love to have you follow us too. Again, we're at Peak of the Market, or you can follow me at Larry McIntosh. We're back with Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. Now, you do a lot of breakfast events and different events, too. I know you had somebody from Hockey Canada.
Yeah, we had Tom Rennie, the President and CEO of Hockey Canada, did a breakfast with us at the end of January. And that's part of the MBiz breakfast series that we have as an opportunity to have different speakers come, have an opportunity for business people to network. We've got a couple upcoming. We're getting into the political realm, where we're going to have the leaders of all three political parties in Manitoba doing breakfast. Our first one was with PC leader Brian Pallister on March 11th. Okay. We'll have one with Rana Bokhari, the leader of the Liberal Party, on March 25th. And because we still don't know who the premier of the province will be, we haven't booked that one, but that will be coming in the next sometime this fall. And we also do, when the federal and provincial budgets come down, we typically have done one with Shelley Glover right after the federal budget, and then with the Manitoba's finance minister after the provincial budget. So we do a number of different events. We also do a dinner with Manitoba's deputy ministers. That's going to happen in late May, which is really an opportunity for the business community to meet with the deputy ministers, who are really those key people in government that often are the ones tasked with doing the work of government. So it's good to have those connections between them and with the business community. So we'll be doing that. And then, of course, our annual general meeting takes place May 5th or May 1st to 3rd in Brandon, Manitoba this year, which moves around on an annual basis. So we're very excited about going to the Royal Oak Inn in Brandon in early May for that event.
So if you're out Brandon Way, you can certainly go to the AGM, but is there events that a business that doesn't want to go to the AGM, is there a dinner they can go to? Or is
Yeah, we do gala dinners on an
Okay.
annual basis as well, which is an opportunity for us to recognize local business throughout the province in terms of whether different sizes that we have in long-term Winnipeg and rural. We do it in conjunction with the Lieutenant Governor. So we recognize an individual and a business as well. So that usually takes place at the end of October. So, one of the other things that we encourage is to check your local chamber in terms of in your community, because they typically do events as well, networking events. So if you're out in Dauphin or you're out in Steinbach, check to see what your local chamber is doing, because they're great events to get together and network with other business owners about what they're happening. We typically will put that on our website as well at www.mbchambers.mb.ca. For information on that, where people can go to see what's kind of going on in the chamber world around the province.
And there's lots of interesting breakfasts and lunches that happen all over the province. During my time with the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, excuse me, when I was chair, I went to a lot of those events, and they're fantastic. I mean, they're all different
Yep.
events, but they're really fantastic.
Well, and they do a lot of different things. There's, they do some great gala dinners. They have different speakers come in, and that's exactly what the chamber is really about, is that opportunity to both educate the business community, but also to really provide that opportunity to network and to do business together. So chambers throughout the province are doing a tremendous job. We've really reinvigorated the local chambers in the past 18 months as well, spending a lot more time working with them. We've developed something called the Chamber Executives of Manitoba, giving them a real network to talk to each other, to share some of those best practices on how they can be more successful in their own communities.
So you think, what's the biggest challenge to the chamber movement? What do you see coming up?
The biggest challenge to the chamber movement, again, it's making sure that we're always providing that value to the business community. Again, when you're an organization that is based on membership-based organization, it's no different than a gym membership. On an annual basis, we'll ask you, would you like to renew your membership with our organization? And if we haven't provided you with value over the past year, or we haven't engaged with you, chances are you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to take a pass on that this year. So we need to continually make the case as to what the relevance of our organization is, as to why business community needs to support us and the work that we're doing, and the importance that we're having, and the importance that it has in the local business community as well. So that's the biggest challenge for us, is to continue to show the relevance that we have and to continue to provide that value to the business community.
Do you think a chamber membership, whether it's a local chamber or your chamber, is important? And so obviously it funds things happening, but it's also important to be involved, isn't it?
It absolutely is. That it's not just enough that you sort of pay your dues. We always encourage businesses to get involved, there's various committees that we have at the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce in the policy development. Attending events, getting out there, whether it's in your local community as well. Getting involved, that's just as important, because that's really how you see value in terms of that membership. That it's really how you use it, because if you pay something, if you pay a gym membership and you never go to the gym, you're not going to see a return on that investment either. So we always say the same thing.
I found that out.
Yeah, you and me both.
What do you see the big challenges for the province coming up?
Well, I think it's some interesting times in the province right now. There's no question we're going to have an election within the next 12 months at both the federal and the provincial level. I think Manitoba's on a real upswing. I think there's a real need for us to get our fiscal house in order to a greater extent, to really benefit from that. So this is an interesting time. A big focus for us at the Manitoba Chamber right now is on how competitive we are with other jurisdictions. And are we creating that business climate in Manitoba that business is looking at Manitoba and saying, yeah, this is a good place to set up shop? There are some challenges, and we need to be able to address those. We know our neighboring competitors are not going to sit back and make it less competitive for us. So we need to continue to look at what are some of the challenges for the business community and for individuals. Are we making this a great place to really prosper, and for people to start their businesses, to start their careers, and to have a good life here? So those are some of the challenges that we continually have. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to be looking for in the next year, is as to which of the political parties is really going to address things that are important to Manitobans in this province.
And there's no question that Manitoba is a fantastic place to live. Fantastic. We have great work ethic.
Yeah.
It's a great community, but we need to improve on some things, and that's true with every community. But there's
sure it is.
nothing wrong with moving forward.
And that's a big part of it. It's never to be critical. I always take the impression our job is to work with the various levels of government. It's not to be critical of them. How can we make this better together? And I think that's how you're most successful as a community.
We're talking with Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Food and Friends. My guest next Saturday, March 8th at 8 a.m. is Chris Garwick from Jackson Springs. Jackson Springs was the international gold medal winner for best tasting water in the world in 2012. Also, I will be a guest on Your Life Unlimited with Stephanie Staples on Sunday. So tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. to hear me being interviewed, which is going to be kind of different for me. I'm usually on the other side of the table. My guest today has been Chuck Davidson, President and CEO of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce. Chuck, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Larry.
Appreciate you coming in.
I always appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk with you on a Saturday morning.
And we'll see you in Brandon for the AGM.
I can't wait for you to bring back trivia.
We're bringing back trivia.
Yeah.
Thanks to Nicole Bonnycamp, our show's producer, and Riley Rivard, our camera guy. Take care, everybody, and please don't forget to eat your veggies.